Hello and welcome back. I'm Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to this week's gun store vlog, where today we're just going to be doing some talking, and I am going to be uploading this video on the 4th of July, so if you are watching this video on the 4th, happy 4th of July to you. I am actually filming this on the 3rd, so hopefully by about the time you guys are watching this video, I will be drinking beer with my friends and family, and maybe I'll go out to a gun range, but of course not in that order, and just enjoying the rights that have been afforded to me by people who have come before me, other Americans, United States citizens that have been here before, served in the military, and done their part to secure these sorts of rights that we really enjoy. I think there's really no better time to reflect on what the fourth, but also what the Second Amendment means to me, sort of in the multifaceted sense. What it literally means, what it sort of figuratively means to me, and what it means to me as somebody who operates a business that really depends on the Second Amendment. So I'm kind of go through those. Now, I think it's really important. I mean, the 4th of July is a holiday that all Americans, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, if you are an immigrant coming from a different culture, if you are recognizing that you are an American citizen or that you live in the United States, it's a holiday that we all enjoy together, and we all sort of reflect on, or at least spend the day celebrating where we've come from, where we are now, and hopefully where we are going. And it's kind of that one apolitical holiday where usually everybody can come together and just enjoy being fellow Americans and citizens. Sort of the bedrock or the antithesis of where that was all founded comes to us from the Constitution, and of course there are many constitutional rights that are inalienable to us, that we enjoy: freedom of speech, of course the right to bear arms, the right to due process, search and seizure, no quarter during if we can go through the whole Constitution. But the series of amendments that we enjoy, it's good to at least reflect on those and look at how they affect and better our lives as citizens of this country. And more importantly, what I'm going to be reflecting on in this video is the Second Amendment. So with that long sort of intro out of the way, I'm going to talk about that. So first, what does the Second Amendment to me mean literally? Okay, well, it's prescribed with a very cut and clear with a statement along the lines of a well-regulated militia, important for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Of course, I paraphrased that. And if we look at it literally, of course, there is a lot of debate over what some of those terms mean. Militia, well-regulated, keep and bear arms shall not be infringed are kind of the most important things of that little segment there. So to me, if we look at the section well-regulated, that modifies the word militia. Well, a militia is a formation or a combative element that is created out of a civil population. So of course, well-regulated does not occur until the militia has occurred, and the militia occurs out of a formation of citizens who are armed. And that's the way I look at it. Of course, a lot of people are going to disagree about, does well-regulated means regulating the people who then could become the militia? I think it's very linear. People are armed. A situation arises where they need to group together, forming a militia, and the militia then becomes well-regulated, usually as a state-appointed commanding element or something like that. But so that's sort of what it really means to me. So it is important, of course, to remember back to 1776. We were fighting a Revolutionary War, and it was important for those people. If anybody's seen the movie The Patriot, because you should believe anything you see on TV, but there is a fundamental truth there, and it was very important that normal citizens who were armed were able to band together to create a fighting element that was very effective and really was instrumental in the winning of the Revolutionary War here in the United States. It was because of that notice, it was because of that understanding of that is what happened militarily, that of course the Second Amendment was needed. Now again, that is my personal interpretation. I'm not an expert on the Constitution. So then what does the Second Amendment mean to me personally? And this is where I think a lot of the reflection to me comes from. Fundamentally to me, the Second Amendment, what it represents is the anti-narcissistic behavior of people who use guns in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is there are two types of people who own firearms. There are law-abiding citizens who purchase firearms legally, who use firearms responsibly and ethically, and who use firearms for their intended purpose as a tool to protect ourselves, our families, and others, and to do so within a legal capacity. There are other people who own firearms that I don't believe are supporters of the ideals of the Second Amendment, because their purpose for owning firearms is purely selfish. The selfishness is gangbangers and whatnot shooting each other over spats over whose corner is whose, or who owns what drugs or whatnot. Shooting other people frivolously when they are themselves bringing the threat to the situation. Mass shooters, robbers, anybody using a firearm unethically, in my opinion, they are not proponents, they are not supporters, and they are not covered by the benefits or the rights or for what was the intent of the Second Amendment. Going back to what my belief of the Second Amendment was intended to be, was so that the citizenry could keep arms. So if the time was called upon them to come forward and group together and fight a threat, whether domestic or foreign, that was what they were going to come together to do. So the very principles of the Second Amendment, the whole foundation, the reason for why it exists, is supposed to be a very selfless endeavor, a very selfless act. So when you make the decision to purchase a firearm, and if you think about this, this is very true. If you don't believe me, go down and look in the comment section. People will chime in. But when I sell firearms to people, one of the most common things they say is, I moved into a new house or a new neighborhood, or maybe I live in a rough neighborhood, and I need a firearm to protect my family. Okay, that right there is a selfless statement. You have a spouse, whether they're your wife or your husband, you have children, you may be living with your elderly parents, and the whole purpose for you purchasing that firearm is so that you can put yourself in a position to protect those people. I'm not buying this firearm solely to protect myself. Maybe you live alone, maybe you don't have a family, and that's your purpose for owning it. That's totally fine. But usually, a protection of life, that is the idea, that is the goal, and a lot of people like to try and persuade us that the purpose of firearms is to end life. Of course, that is a byproduct that may unfortunately occur during the protection of your own or your friend's life, or your spouse's wife, or your children's life, or a stranger's life. But the main principle, the underlying principle of the Second Amendment to me is selflessness. And I own firearms, yes, because I personally enjoy them. But the main reason that I keep a firearm in the home is to protect my family. Now, the Second Amendment is the great catalyst to provide the largest and best private security detail for everybody. And what I mean by that is, if you don't carry a firearm and you have no interest in owning or carrying a firearm, I want you to consider that statistically, if you look at your neighborhood, you go about 3 houses left and 3 houses right, and your 3 neighbors maybe across the street. Statistically, 2 to 3 of those homes, there's going to be a gun owner there. There's going to be a firearm in that home. And I guarantee you, in the time that you've been in that house, you haven't, had that neighbor come over and just start frivolously shooting people, just because they have the firearm. They have that firearm there because they want to protect their property and their family. Now, consider you are good friends with that neighbor, and somebody breaks into your home, or they witness somebody breaking into your home. They could be there to help with a firearm before the police could get there, which could be about 10 to 15 minutes depending on where you live. I think that's about the national average, is about 10 to 15 minutes response time. Next time you are out to dinner at a busy restaurant, say you are in a restaurant dining room and there's 100 people in there. About 20 to 30 of those people are probably going to be armed, or 20 to 30 of those families are probably going to be armed. Now, it's not anybody's personal responsibility or duty to protect you in the event that somebody comes in. Maybe they're just robbing the place, or God forbid, the unlikely scenario of a mass shooter comes into the restaurant. But by your vicinity to that person is there with their families. I kind of look at it as you are a deer in the woods. Where is the safest place for you to be? Well, the safest place is probably near and respectful and relative distance to a mother bear and her cubs. Because if a wolf comes into your area, even if that wolf is there for you, if that wolf is too close to those cubs, the mother bear will engage that wolf. Mother bear is protecting her cubs, but by proxy, the mother bear is also protecting you. And that is sort of the overarching idea of the Second Amendment, that I have a firearm. If I go out to eat, I have a firearm on me concealed. I mean nobody there any harm. But if somebody comes in and puts my family in danger, well, if my family's in danger, you're in danger too. And I'm going to try and end that threat to protect my family. but I'm also protecting you, even if that's not my intent. So that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And every single restaurant you go to, every single place you go out to eat, I guarantee you, there are at least several people in that dining room that are armed, and you've never been hurt. You've never had a gun pulled on you. Those are honest, law-abiding citizens. Those are true proponents of the Second Amendment, and they will protect you either directly or indirectly if any harm or any type of threat, any non-Second Amendment supporting gun owners come in to create an issue. Because of the very virtue of the Second Amendment, the fact that the Second Amendment is built by the selfless, not the selfish, by the law-abiding, not the criminal. If the Second Amendment were abolished, it's all those people that would relinquish their firearms. Maybe not all, but most people probably would, or at least be a little bit more careful about who they choose to protect and who not, because they know by virtue of them pulling their firearm to defend their lives or your life, they're probably going to be arrested because they're violating, the banning of a firearm. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm just talking about the importance of the Second Amendment in general. But the people who aren't going to care are the people who don't care about the Second Amendment, the gun owners that don't prescribe to those ideals. They're going to keep the firearms anyway, and they will continue to use those firearms selfishly. Now, what does the Second Amendment mean to me as a gun store owner, as a business owner? Well, I've sort of talked about my personal interest in the Second Amendment and why I enjoy it, but the Second Amendment also, to me, provides the gun industry. Okay, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry of which I am a very small cog. It provides me with food for my family, for shelter, a business that I enjoy. It's introduced me to so many people, and I will tell you again, what I said about the selflessness of gun owners. It's like the amount of just endless amounts of conversations I've had with people who have come in here and purchased guns, their motives behind owning firearms. I'm not talking theoretically about the theoretical gun owner. I'm talking from experience of somebody who has dealt with thousands and thousands and thousands of gun owners. Overwhelmingly amazing, incredible, selfless people. I hate this sort of caricature that you see on the news that, if you're not for banning guns, then you're just some sort of ammo-sexual and you just care more about your AR than the life of a child. No, that is absolutely not it. People own those firearms because they hold the lives of others so high that they will do anything they can to make sure that there is nothing within their power that can be taken from them, such as their property or, more importantly, their family. And I have that conversation with people constantly. The motivation behind my customers coming in and buying firearms from me constantly is unanimously for those reasons. Now, let's not kid ourselves. It's fun to go out on the range. It's fun to try long-range shooting. But every single gun owner, including all of you watching, you have built in your head a sort of protocol that you would follow if there were a foreign invasion, a power grid outage, if just some idiot tried to break into your house. If you're out with your family at dinner and something happens, you've all thought through what you will do because you care about making sure that you are ready to protect others in that scenario. And that is usually unanimously the intent of people who come in and buy firearms from me. So I've learned very quickly that I am the provider, the armory, if you will, the person who sells the tools that free, law-abiding, and selfless people use to protect their communities. And that's legitimately how I see it. I am very, very happy to be in that kind of position. I really enjoy being in that kind of position. In just dealing with my customers, that they are the type of people that I know are the selfless, that they are the true protectors of their communities. They care about their communities with all their heart. And again, if you're in some other community, you're in some other state, I know you feel the same way. I'm very confident about that. It's through repetitive interactions with people, members of the Second Amendment community. Again, the people who buy guns for the purpose of being selfless, for the enjoyment of knowing that they can do something, that they can make a difference and help if they need to. Again, whether it's a stranger or a family member or even themselves, your own life is important to protect. You only get one life. You should definitely cling on to that with everything you have and use the tools that can be provided to you legally within our society to do so. And that is the importance for why stores like mine exist. And again, I'm very fortunate that I can make a living doing that. It's very fulfilling to me. So as you enjoy your 4th of July, music festivals, beer, parades, being with your family, being with your friends. If you are part of the Second Amendment community, this selfless organization of domestic warriors there for the protection of ourselves, our family, and our friends, and strangers as well, what does the Second Amendment mean to you? It means something personally to everybody, which is what is so great about the Second Amendment, about why it is that we keep and bear arms. Again, please be safe, please be responsible, and I hope you all have a wonderful 4th of July with your friends and family. Again, I challenge you all to just think long and hard about what it means to be a citizen of this country, what the Constitution means to you, whether or not you agree with every facet of it. What solace can you find in its meaning? The Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, whatever. But anyway, that is what the 4th of July is all about. It's about being a community. It's about finding truth in every aspect of our lives as we live together and try to meld in this sort of chaotic community and country that we've created for ourselves so far. So take the time, enjoy one another, and I will see you guys next time.